a very good evening to you, Damien, and to everybody watching. Tom Grant here for sitting in for the usual hosts on ATP Weekly. Damien, how are you doing? How have you been keeping?
Fine. For me, it's Shanghai starts at like 6:30, so I've been going to bed at reasonably early hours in order to catch the morning action. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But generally speaking, this is definitely one of my favorite events on tour, and I'm glad that it's back. It's quick, it produces some great tennis that very much suits my viewing preferences as well. So, yeah, after 4 years, we have it again, and that's great.
Yeah. I mean, I think the last time we sat down on a similar kind of show like this was just the night before the US Open, and you were telling me about what your kind of sleeping plan was going to be. But have you been enjoying the kind of post US Open tennis season? The Asian swing, a lot of it in China. Have you been enjoying the tennis that you've been watching?
I mean, I think I've said it a few times on the show that I don't really have like my interest in tennis doesn't really fluctuate. I
It's
honestly
always
just
there.
yeah, it's always there. I wake up every day. I put on whatever is on. I check the scores, and then basically how it goes until the end of November. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really. I can't really say that I've been enjoying it more or less. It's just yeah,
Yeah.
another week of tennis.
Fair enough. I mean, I think there's sometimes, certainly for some more casual fans than yourself, I think, you get a slump, don't you, after the final
Yeah.
Grand Slam. There's nothing that's really building up to, arguably, the ATP finals for the top eight. But, in terms of the quality of tennis, a lot of the big names have all been involved. I know you spoke last week on Sinner winning his Masters 1000, taking out Alcaraz and Medvedev. But in terms of the quality of tennis, you spoke there about quick matches in Shanghai. Is the quality in Shanghai, has that been there for you?
I think so. There's definitely a lot of freshness as well on the third, fourth round. There's a number of players that I'm excited about because usually when it's like, I don't know, Zverev Medvedev again, I wouldn't really want to watch it, honestly. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that there's a certain degree of, players who have just managed to, let's say, exceed the expectations. So that's good. But at the same time, as you said, I mean, basically everyone played this event, let's say, outside of Djokovic.
Yeah.
And at the same time, of course, a lot of them are already out. But for me, it doesn't really hinder my enjoyment at all. I can see how, someone probably will be complaining about, how is, I don't know, Maroshan in the fourth round? How is someone else in the fourth round? Korda Segundo fourth round. But, for me, it's absolutely fine. And I am even more excited for the rest of the events than I usually would be, probably.
Yeah, perfect. You touched on it there, so we'll jump right in. Probably the kind of biggest shock, but I mean it's not too much of a shock. But Daniel Medvedev has been in some fine form. I think he's on 60 wins for the 2023 season. But he lost out, as you mentioned there, to Sebastian Korda, 7-6, 6-2. I think I looked at one point, Damien, was Medvedev a break-up in the first set, or I made that one up?
No.
Um,
He never broke Korda.
did he not at all? Yeah, I mean, I only caught glimpses of this one, but it's a matchup that I think Korda likes, and we spoke just before we came on the show. Do you want to kind of talk us through where it went right and wrong where it went right for Korda and where it went wrong for Daniil then?
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's just a lot of the things that Korda wants to do naturally on the court and like has the ability to do are actually good against Medvedev. Are like the sort of tactics that we would usually call, anti Medvedevian or whatever. He can go to the net easily. This is the sort of tennis that he wants to play. He plays very early off the bounce, tries to create some angles, which is again tough because Medvedev is so far behind the baseline. So I think that this is really helpful to him. That the sort of tennis that he wants to play sort of naturally is actually exactly what you want to play against Medvedev. Obviously, this doesn't mean that he's going to be winning against Daniil every single time. There was this opening set tiebreak where Medvedev commits 3 double faults, all of them in mini break up, one of them on the set point. So that's also pretty huge. But yeah, after that, I mean, I think Korda saved like one break point at the beginning of the second set, and from there, it sort of he sort of steamrolled towards the end of the match. So I would say that the moment it went wrong was definitely the first set tiebreak for Medvedev. Up until then, that point, I mean, they were pretty much just going toe to toe. I don't think there was any break points for anyone in the opening set. Korda played like a ridiculously good point on the third set point, I think, for Medvedev, where yeah, he had to just there was a lob, there was a drop shot. He was running up and down the court. He was also luring Medvedev forward with droppers. I mean, they weren't even all that good, but still, Medvedev is 2 meters behind the court. It doesn't have to be like a winning shot instantly. It can be just a drop shot and then a pass or something. And yeah, I just think that for Korda it is really natural to play against Medvedev because the tactical plan is basically what he enjoys anyway.
Yeah. It was a very tactical match, though, wasn't it? Like you could tell that there was a game plan there, and he played it well.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, there was a very telling stat on my feed. I think I even posted it on Twitter, which sort of talked about how many points they have won at the net and at the baseline. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it was at 6-4, 6-7-6, 4-2 for Korda, where Medvedev had 31 points won at the baseline and 5 at the net, whereas Korda had basically a 50-50 split. We've seen that a lot from other players against Medvedev recently, serving volleying out wide. I also remember a stat that showed Korda's serve directions on the deuce side, which were basically 80% out wide and to the Medvedev forehand. Yeah, exactly. That's what John's showing to you. And on the outside, though, it was like way more split, which again shows decent tactical awareness. And yeah, I think it was a tactical match, but for Korda, it's definitely easier to play like that than for other players. When Sinner did that to Medvedev in the Beijing final, you could see he is somewhat uncomfortable still playing like
Mm-hmm.
that,
Yeah.
but it's still, the effect in the end was still, of course, great. He actually managed to make it work despite not feeling very comfortable. Korda actually, it's just exactly what he wants. So
Yeah.
I do think that this should be a good matchup for Korda. Should it be as good as it's been this year? 5 sets, 5 wins. I mean, five sets won. Probably not as good. I definitely want to see them playing in the future, but it should remain a problem matchup for Daniel.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever use the term topsy turvy?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because
Um,
I was going to describe Sebastian Korda's year 2023 as topsy turvy. Would you agree with that in terms of he started off pretty strong down under, didn't he? And then you had the infamous line just before Wimbledon talking about him being one of the top players, the top seeds. So yeah, I mean in terms of Sebastian Korda, he's still young. Is he up there with the best Americans on tour?
yeah, it's a weird season for sure. After January, which as you mentioned was fabulous, especially including that Medvedev win, and of course having a match point against Djokovic. Everyone was like, okay, this guy is gonna break the top 20, the top 10 this year.
Yeah, I
Top
remember
20 is
thinking it
actually
myself.
still. Mhm.
I,
Yeah,
I remember sitting
absolutely.
there watching, going, "This is his year."
And the top 10 is probably not achievable anymore, but the top 20 actually he can still do it, which would be a pretty good feat because he was missing for 3 months. I mean, more or less 3 months. Yeah, 3 months actually between the Australian Open and the clay season. Then of course it was fine, to sort of after the injury, get back to playing better tennis with like some sort of a delay, just have a bit of a period where maybe he's trying to refine his rhythm. But yeah, as you said, after Queen's Cup, then the expectations are high again. He doesn't do anything at Wimbledon. Which Iji Vesely obviously not at his strongest right now. Also, the U.S. Open, he loses in the first rounds. So basically, anytime people would get their hopes up, he would very quickly shatter them. And yeah, I still think it's been a fine season. It's been a season of progress. If he gets like a full year of 2024, I would expect him to be one of the best Americans that year, and for sure. Also because the competition, I mean, it isn't all that strong. Like you have Taylor Fritz, you have Tommy Paul, but are they really going to go like further up from here? I'm not sure about that. Shelton is also like a huge mystery regarding whether he defends his points in Australia and the U.S. Open. Of course, Frances Tiafoe I sort of didn't mention, but all of these guys, I feel like they have already besides Shelton, of course. So Tiafoe, Fritz, Paul, I feel like they have more or less hit their peaks, whereas Korda definitely hasn't, and
Okay.
Shelton as well. So I would say there is a big chance that in 2024, if we get him healthy for a year, he might be, among the
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
highest ranked Americans. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, he's definitely one to watch for 2024
Yeah.
if he can stay injury free, and that's not to say he can't finish off this year pretty strong and kind of lay down a marker. Final question on Korda, and then we'll move swiftly on. He obviously faces Francisco Cerundolo in the next round after he beat Martin Fucsovics. But ATP described this one as Korda's the biggest win of his career. And I just wondered if you agreed with that.
Well, definitely it's his first top 5 win, right? I mean, Medvedev, when he played him at
Maybe
the
that's
Australian
where they
Open,
got that from.
yeah, that's probably where they got it from. Now I'm thinking whether it's actually true, and it could be. Medvedev, when he beat him at the Australian Open, he was coming off a weaker a weaker season even as a whole after the Australian Open final. So I think Medvedev was ranked maybe 12 when they played, or no, actually eight. Sorry, I just checked that. So would that be his best win ever? I probably would have to agree. I mean, what's really what are the other options? I mean, Medvedev at the Australian Open, right? Like, these are the only two comparable ones. If he beat Djokovic at Adelaide, then we can start talking about it, and probably that would be his best one. But of course, he didn't convert the match point. So yeah, I would probably agree. Given where Medvedev is right now compared to where he was at the Australian Open, even though it's not a slam, I would probably say that, this is the best win of his career.
Fair enough. You make a good case there, Damon. We'll move on then, just to try. We've got a lot to cram in into it. I wanted to fire this one in because I'm really interested by this guy, and I know that earlier in the summer, because of his success on the Challenger Tour, Fabian Marchand was somebody who you had kind of tipped even before the Alcaraz win on the clay court. So. He's enjoying a decent run here, and I just wanted to find out of you, as somebody who kind of is the expert on that side of things. Where is this guy's ceiling? Let's talk about Fabian Marchand. How good is he?
Yeah, the honestly, the real answer is that I truly don't know. Like, I think Marchand was one of my best picks in terms of who is going to get into the top 100 this year.
But
I remember really. Yeah.
I remember you saying it.
Yeah, but like, did I really think that he was gonna be as good on the main tour as he is right now? I'm not sure. Like, I think he was one of my ballsier selections. One of the guys who I thought, okay, maybe he does it, but most likely he actually can't. And yeah, obviously Rome was something else, and I think this Shanghai round also goes a long way. Because with his sort of play style, I think it's really hard to be producing wins on a consistent basis. Like, I basically never write him off in front of a match. He plays Alcaraz in Rome, he plays De Minaur in Shanghai. I will never write off Marchand, because if he just comes out and blasts the ball, takes it so early that the opponent is reduced to an extra, what really can the other guy do? I mean, there was always a bit of a let's say everyone was always maybe questioning whether Marchand was going to be as good on hard or indoors as he is on clay. The fact is that he basically has very little experience compared to his clay results on these surfaces. I mean, he's played like 90% of matches in his career on clay, which, if you think about his playstyle, it's actually kind of weird that he has done that. I mean, I've seen him have some good runs before. Bergamo 2021, he was in the semifinals of a challenger. He was also in the final at Bratislava, a huge challenger last year. But at the beginning of the season, he wasn't going well at all on hard courts indoors. So it was a bit of a for sure it was a bit of a worry, but he played this excellent match against Gasquet at the US Open, which already gave me some sort of an indication that he should be more or less fine. Then even just before Shanghai, he played Astana and lost to Kakhmazov, like a very tame loss in the qualifying, right? So that's not what you would really expect. That's not what you would really want ahead of that Shanghai run. So that's why perhaps people didn't really see it coming. But I think wins like that, like today was it? Yeah, it was today against Lajovic.
It was, earlier on this morning.
These are the ones that sort of can take him really far, because again, I'm never writing him off in any match. But the fact that he beats the minor, it's not really a surprise to me because he has that sort of peak level. It's all about doing that consistently. And the fact that he also managed to beat Rinderknech and Lajovic and also didn't really make hard work of it, I think that's fantastic for him. He maybe isn't able to use all that, trademark drop shots that he has on hard courts as he is on clay, but he can definitely make up for it. He's been serving great. The fact that the surface is quicker definitely helps him in many ways as well. So yeah, super excited to see how he tackles on road. Again, I'm never counting him off really.
Yeah.
I feel like consistency definitely will remain an issue. It's just that the style is so aggressive. But yeah, what he's done over the past, let's say, year or so, getting himself from maybe around 250 in the rankings as he was, let's say, in August last year to where he is right now, it's just insane, especially for a player who I don't think was ever truly regarded as a major prospect, in
Yeah.
the juniors or at the beginning of his career, definitely not. So he's clearly good enough to be playing on the main tour. I think he's going to keep racking up some wins, some runs to keep him there. I have no clue how far he will go because there's always going to be that sort of consistency question. But I was definitely very pleased with the fact that he beat Lajovic so confidently. Like that, the fact that he was able to back up the minor win, that's something that can really help him.
Yeah, yeah, a good run, and people will start taking notice. Casper Ruud, beat Christopher Eubanks today. He was a set. No, sorry, he won 6-4, 6-2. Who wins that one then for you, Damien? Casper Ruud, he looks to have reset a little bit. Who wins that one then, Casper?
I mean, you have to call Ruud the favorite, but as I said, I'm just never writing Maroshan off, whoever he plays, really. I was a bit surprised with how quick it was for Kasper, I guess, so far against Nishioka, Eubanks. I mean, two theoretically dangerous players. I have to say that, I don't really think Ruud will make the semis. I think he will lose probably to Hurkacz or Zhang. But he is the favorite over Maroshan. I would assume that. But yeah, I don't think he makes it through these two rounds anyway.
Okay. Well, why don't we just kind of stick to that side of the draw in Shanghai? You've got Zhang Zhenjin against Herbie Hurkacz. Zhang, I see that he's doing stuff that no other Chinese player has done. He's been making history by getting this far. Talk to me about his level then. I saw a bit of him at the US Open. Where can he go?
I honestly think he's as good as anyone really on the tour when it comes to just pure aggressive ball striking and the technique, which is like you can see that someone has been, well, not has been, but in the past someone like took a lot of hours into making sure that this guy was going to be an absolute force. He has a physicality that is so rare for players from that part of the world as well. Massive serve, massive ground strokes, and honestly, I just feel like he really has nothing to fear from against against the top guys. There's nothing that he should fear. Basically, he is as good as them. It's just a matter of like mental and maybe also like time experience, shot selection. The fact that again, sort of like Maroshan's, his style is very balls to the wall. That can also hurt him, but he is capable of beating the best 100%. I am a little maybe at the beginning of the season there was definitely that part, especially in like March, February, where I was very afraid for Zhang that he was not going to repeat that 2022 campaign. But he's basically had that Madrid run, then of course Hamburg, and yeah, right now just keeps doing it pretty consistently actually the last few months. So this is exactly what I wanted to see. I think he is getting, his game is getting a little polished up, which really it doesn't need all that much. And yeah, from the get-go here in Shanghai, I think he seemed like a potential dark horse. He actually played this event 6 times in the past, never won a match, whether it was qualifying or the main draw. But of course, we haven't had Shanghai for 4 years, so it was a long break. He clearly made a massive jump. As he said, he's making history basically anytime he plays. I mean, Yibing Wu was the first Chinese ATP Tour champion, but Zhang was the first one to break the top 100, make the ATP 1000 quarterfinal in Madrid, and etc. So I am very pleased with this run as well, because it felt like from the get go in Shanghai, it felt like he has a fantastic draw. I know he hadn't won a match in Shanghai in the past, but he had major results in like Chinese hardcore challengers, which play
Right.
very similar. In 2019, he won a couple of them. I think Shenzhen and Jinan. So also, of course, he won the Asian Games, which were also held in China just before Shanghai. Which maybe the field wasn't as good, maybe outside of Watanuki in the final, but still, it's bound to give him a lot of confidence. I think it was a very important week for him. And yeah, the fact that he took this opportunity to make the fourth round and was actually pushed by Echeverry in the second round. I don't think struggling there was like any sort of negative for him, just because Echeverry recently has made a big step up on hard as well and was playing great in that match. So I am very excited to see him play against Hurkacz. I do think that the winner of this is probably gonna make the semis as well. So it's a major opportunity for Zhizhen Zhang. And again, I always say that, like, compared on like a pure ball striking level, he is as good as anyone on the tour, really.
Yeah. I
And
mean, he hit 18 winners today against Brandon Nakashima, and on his way to winning 7-6, 6-2 in just under an hour and a half, an hour and 25 minutes of tennis played. Next up, then, we will move on to. I know we've spoke about, or you guys spoke about Yannick Sinner after his win in Beijing last week, or on Wednesday. Always, throws a curveball at me when you finish tournaments on a Wednesday. But yeah, so Yannick Sinner winning on Wednesday. This week he's managed to come through. Now I've watched actually both these matches, Damien, and I'm not saying in any way he's lucky. I like Yannick Sinner, but two crucial sets. Did you see the net cords that he's had both times against Marcus Giron, and then again today against Sebastian Baez? No.
I've watched some of the tie break against Kiron basically only,
Yeah.
and I know what happened there with the net, yeah. But
Yeah.
against Bias today, I barely saw this much, yeah.
I think it was it was on set point, and for the first set that was it. Hit the net cord. Baez had to rejig himself. Played a kind of short ball back, and Yannick Sinner put him away with a forehand to take the first set. But yeah, Yannick Sinner. Let's not spend too much time, but he's looked to being Baez tricky customer, as most players will tell you, in terms of he's going to put it all. He's always going to make the match competitive. But did you expect Yannick Sinner just to keep this form going? He's 7 wins in a row now. Yannick Sinner, is he a favourite again for this week?
He could be, although Sinner Shelton, I think that's a massive fourth round match. I don't really understand why people seem to think that it's like an easy win for Sinner or something. Nothing he has had so far this week has been easy for him. But again, that's sort of what confidence can do to you, right? That you are simply able to handle anything that is coming your way. Obviously, the last 2 or 3 months have been the best in his career. And I mean, it was never going to be easy to transfer his Beijing form to Shanghai. He got an additional day of rest along with Medvedev. They were actually, like, their sides of the draw were supposed to play on Friday. They actually played on Saturday. So that was a bit of help for him. But
that was because of the weather, wasn't it? Because of the rain?
No, actually not.
Was it not?
They were scheduled like this, yes.
Right, okay.
Medvedev and Sinner were scheduled like this, where their second round matches actually happened on Saturday instead of Friday in the first place, before the weather sort of came in.
Right.
But yeah, now he gets a day of rest. He should be a threat. If he beats Shelton, he might be able to go all the way. Who knows? But I would not like put him into the quarterfinals automatically yet. I thought that before the event started, I thought that anyone out of Shelton, Zverev, Safiullin, there was that super strong section there. Anyone out of these is a really tough opponent for Sinner, and so far he has benefited from a pretty easy draw as well. Like that was part of why I thought, okay, he's definitely making the fourth round here, because, well, Giron Baez to make the fourth round in Shanghai, that's definitely among the weakest sections. But at the same time, of course, it's not like Sinner needed it. As he said, 7 wins in a row, and he still seems to be going pretty strong.
Yeah, yeah. But then talk to me about, and before we go into Shelton though, because Shelton versus Roman Saffiolin was one that I watched today, just because I thought that one was going to be, a really hard hitting blockbuster. I enjoyed the match. Saffiolin obviously leading won the first set and leading the match, but Shelton, showed some resolve, showed some character. He's not just a guy who can try and blast you off the court with his big serve and his big ground strokes. And I thought that for me was kind of key. And I don't know if you agree, Damien, in terms of, him managing to turn that match around, probably going into it as the favourite, even though he's playing against a guy who's in form. So I thought that was an impressive win from Ben Shelton today, something that I didn't know that level that he had.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely huge for Shelton. It's just the fourth time this year that he wins two matches in a single event. Two of them obviously being Australia and the US Open, and also the Challenger in Cagliari. So from that perspective, it's definitely huge. I mean, we're sort of going to see whether 2023 is just going to stay like a two event type of deal for Ben Shelton, or is there actually going to be another big run in him? I would hope to see it. Yeah, and he did manage that well, that match pretty well. I would agree with that. Safiurin, maybe wasn't at the sort of level that saw him crush Zverev, crush Murray. He definitely made a number of +1 forehand errors in the second and third set, which wouldn't really happen to him in the previous two matches. But again, that's sort of a thing of his style. But yeah, Shelton definitely has more abilities than just blasting the ball, and he's a very good athlete as well. He can actually draw out errors from his opponents. He can play a bit smarter than I think most people realize, and that match is probably part of the experience that he's amassed over the course of this season, and experience that he's hopefully going to be able to use in the future in 2024 as well. For now, I think he sort of gets a bit of a wild card, playing Sinner here. Like if he loses to him, there's really nothing wrong in it. If he wins, that's amazing, and that's when expectations will actually start piling up. That's when everyone will be thinking, okay, can Shelton make the final? Can Shelton make the semis? And I have to say that I'm also it's rare for me to be excited about doubles, but that Hurkacz Shelton doubles, which Keen mentioned in the chat a few minutes ago, that's actually going to be cool as well. I think initially their match was scheduled like 3 days ago, but then because of the rain, everything got like shifted towards the next days, and they're actually going to play Hijikata Nori, I think, at 12:30 local time tomorrow.
Okay, no, that would be good, and something probably wouldn't have expected to see probably about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, to watch Hurkacz and Shelton as a doubles pairing. In terms of the singles, and I'm going to put you on the spot because that's why you're here, Damien. Sinner, Shelton, the winner would face the winner of Korda, Cerundolo. So who's winning that one?
So just the bottom quarter, right?
Yeah, just give me the winner. Who do you think will be winning between Shelton and Yannick Sinner? And then, I mean, if you want to go to Cerundolo Korda, you can. I think you kind of explained that Korda is on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that Korda is going to win, because I think down the line, he should have more potential to go deeper in this event than Cerundolo, who's actually, topsy-turvy himself, I would say, of clay, and sometimes produces the goods, but can also have some really weak performances. And Sinner Shelton, as I said, I mean, it's definitely much closer for me than most people have it, much closer than the odds have it. I would say, Shelton, basing this on what Sinner has shown so far, I think Shelton should have a chance to win there. I don't know how this match is going to look, but the courts as well, because there's been some chat in the there's been some talk about this in the chat.
Yes,
where, I mean,
the speed of the court.
It's the balls, not the court, as someone said. And that's actually good for Shelton, I think. That's what was happening at the US Open as well, where the court was fast, the balls were heavy. And for players like Shelton, Zhang, that's actually kind of ideal. They can hit through anything anyway. So I would say that Shelton probably has a very good shot against Sinner. I have no clue who's going to make the semis out of this. If I was to say one name, I would go Sebastian Korda.
Sebastian Korda. I did not expect that name to come out of your lips there, Damien. But no, I like it. Do you know what? Who am I to question the great Damien's predictions? So, okay, Korda is, and I think Shelton Sinner, it's going to be a few winners in that one, shall we say. Just briefly, just to go over matchups, I thought it was quite interesting because we were talking about Korda and Medvedev in that matchup, of course. Korda winning in Australia early in the year at the Grand Slam. And I thought it was interesting last week, and I don't know if you touched on it on your weekly on Wednesday when Sinner obviously beats Medvedev for the first time in 6 meetings, or 7 meetings for the first time in 7 meetings. At the same time, Sinner matches it up with Alcaraz 4-all. Medvedev won the last Alcaraz meeting, although Alcaraz has always kind of had his number. And I just thought that triangle of players just kind of proves to you that matchups, tennis is all about matchups. And I just wanted you to kind of explain it for people, maybe the more casual viewer and listener of tennis, why matchups in tennis is like far different to most other sports.
I guess
it's a big question, that one. It's a big one.
Yeah. The main thing, I guess, is just that the difference in terms of, I don't know, tennis level, tennis quality between these guys, guys who can regularly contend on the ATP Tour, it's really slim. Even between guys who aren't regularly contending on the ATP Tour, they are playing challengers or like high quality ITFs. I mean, the differences between them, they've all had like billions of years of training, right? So basically, billions of hours maybe is more accurate. Not hyperboling it all that much.
I was going to let you go. I was going to let that one just go. I wasn't even going to pull you.
Yeah, obviously everyone knows what I mean. And then the difference between their abilities really isn't that huge. So it's really the details that prevail. Sometimes it may be the court conditions, and sometimes it may be matchups. Certainly. Yeah, John also has an interesting note in the chat that the everything. There's only one ball basically in tennis that your opponent has no real impact on, and that's your serve. Otherwise, it's all going to be what's coming at you. You can obviously dictate play, but at the same time, you're also reacting to whatever the opponent is throwing at you, and it's only really the serve that the opponent has no control on. I don't know if it's so different compared to other sports. Definitely team sports would be very different, since then you have so many factors, so many players. In 2 years, it's going to be a completely different squad. Then head-to-heads don't matter at all. But generally, in tennis, even if you play tennis at like a very amateurish level, you're going to encounter this a lot, where you come into a match, you play against an opponent who, I don't know, you beat someone you are usually losing to, and then you beat that guy. It's just a rock paper scissors type of deal a lot of the time, where simply the ball that the opponent plays, the strengths, the assets, sometimes the tactics can be very uncomfortable for you. And it's basically quite random, I would say.
Let me ask you.
Easily,
Let me ask you then, Damien, in your opinion, I mean, like you say, a lot of these guys have all got, like, the line between their ability, isn't massive. The gap between their ability, but like we know, and the particular trio that we speak about, Alcaraz has had Medvedev's number, Medvedev's had Sinner's traditionally, and then Sinner and Alcaraz are kind of matched up together. I wonder, in your opinion, how much do you think is psychological rather than about the ability, the actual physical ability? Sometimes you could have that kind of mental block. I can't beat this guy, which I thought Sinner may have had against Medvedev until, of course, Wednesday night.
Yeah, I think once you lose to someone a few times, it certainly becomes psychological. You want to beat him. You want to beat him so much that you actually start losing to him even more, right? I don't know, let's say Gasquet playing Nadal, for example. Like, everyone knows what sort of thing. It's still easy to. Of course, it's still not easy to beat Nadal, but like everyone knows what sort of tennis Gasquet should be playing if he is to like have a chance at Nadal. But anytime he plays him, he's just absolutely out of it mentally. I don't know, Gael Monfils against Novak Djokovic.
I was just about to say it.
And sometimes I would say, I don't know, when Federer lost 17 times to Federer or someone, I'm sure there's a there's a Djokovic or Nadal matchup that isn't coming to me right now. But sometimes it's just really the sort of edge in the matchup, the edge in the quality, let's say. But in the case of like Monfils Djokovic, there definitely were a few occasions when he had him, he had him, or he just played like a complete idiot. I mean, it happens a lot. And
Yeah.
I think even if you're playing tennis at like an amateur level, you've played, I don't know, 5 opponents 10 different times, you will encounter things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've really done that at in terms of tennis, but I do play table tennis quite a lot at like a, I don't know, let's say high amateur level. And last year, for example, there was this guy that I just couldn't really beat, and it made me play even worse against him every single time because I finally wanted to get that victory. I knew that we're like not really all that far ahead from each other, even though he has much better technique. But he basically plays like this spinny, loopy forehands, and I cannot handle them. And every
Oh,
single time, it just made me play even more defensively against him. Even less risk. I actually
wow.
did manage that win eventually, and it was
Right. I was just about to ask you if you were
such a
if
big
you.
moment.
I was just about to
I,
ask if you were the game one feast in this
No,
relationship
no.
here.
I won him. I won against him twice, I think, last year, and we played like 20 times. So it's close. It's close to Gan. It's Novak
Yeah.
Djokovic territory. But yeah,
You would
it
have.
happens. It happens even if you're not amazing in a sport. I think if you lose to
Yeah.
someone a few times, you're gonna find it hard to beat them, even if maybe the matchup in itself wasn't all that tough in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. No, wow, that is intriguing, Damien. Your uphill battle in the table tennis world. So I'm so pleased that you've overcome that hurdle. Going on to then the rest of them, but just before we do, I just wanted to touch on for me, Diego Schwartzman. Winning. I think this week has been his first actual main draw wins since Wimbledon, I believe. And I just wanted to kind of touch on him very quickly. Schwartzman, he's been on the tour for so long. He's had a rotten run of luck in terms of his playing and, obviously bad form. How good has this been, for the last couple of days, getting a couple of wins under his belt?
Yeah, I think for Schwartzman, like the main question right now is whether he can get into the Australian Open automatically or not. I am not. I mean, let's say I haven't been a fan of his decision making in that he's going to Asia, then he's going to play Basel, Paris. Like the way I imagined the Diego Schwartzman 2023 season, let's say around June, July, I more so thought that he was probably going to end his year in South America playing challengers. I mean, he might still do that, but it's going to be like 2 or 3 events. And I thought that maybe he will sort of take this as an opportunity to rebuild, but he hasn't. If he beats Fritz, then he has sort of made it work in Shanghai, and I have to shut up about it. But if he doesn't, it's still the work still hasn't been done. I mean, in the ATP race, he is like 113th live right now. So basically that's where he stands sort of with his chances of making the Australian Open main draw. And if he doesn't, I think there's gonna be like a real question of how long we're actually going to see Diego Schwartzman on the tour for. Because he cannot really keep playing like he has been this year, like just trying himself in main tour events and losing a lot of the time. I
Yeah,
don't know how I don't know how it's gonna look like, but yeah, these wins obviously help a lot, and it with the sort of scheduling that he has undertaken recently, like he basically is hoping for exactly that, for a run in one of the bigger events, because that's essentially what he's playing towards the end of November, at least, and towards the end of October. That's until we know his scheduling. So he is hoping for something like that. So far, it's working out in this event, and still he hasn't achieved exactly what he's hoping for, but obviously from this match, from the next one, the points skyrocket, the number of points that you can win with every match. So even one more win would really take him a long way.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if he can pull it off. I don't think we've seen it really in Shanghai so far that he can beat Fritz. But maybe no, there is definitely some sort, like the quality in Diego Schwartzman's game from time to time still shows up.
Yeah.
That's
It's
for
just
sure.
keeping it
Like,
going, isn't it? Over 3 sets or 2 sets.
yeah,
It's just
against
keeping it
Zverev,
going.
right? In Beijing, he played a very good match, I think. So
Yeah.
he lost, obviously, so which wasn't ideal, but that was a very tough draw. But yeah, from time to time, he still shows the quality. So maybe I don't know.
But I mean, you're Lehechka. I mean, that's no mean feat. You know, a good player, a good young player, a guy who knows his way around a hard court. So I'm sure he's got to be pleased, especially after losing the second
Yeah.
set and then seeing that one out. So yeah, I mean, again, you know, it's a totally different matchup as we just spoke about against Taylor Fritz. I mean, in terms of Taylor Fritz, you know, we'll just round up the other matches over the last couple of days. Taylor Fritz coming through. Any other results or matches that you kind of stood up and went, wow, I didn't expect that?
Today or just in
Just
general?
since the weekend, so you know, Saturday, Sunday.
Saturday,
I mean, we had Arthur
Sunday.
Fils beating Davidovich Fokina. I suppose that was one that made me kind of think, wow, okay, because I know that the guys have tussled recently.
Yeah. They had two matches at Wimbledon and Roland Garros, both in the opening round, and both of them sucked. Like they really sucked
I remember
compared to
the
the
French Open one.
expectations.
I remember the French Open one because I was like, right,
The
this is the
French
one
wasn't
match.
as bad.
But I remember going, this is the match that I want to watch, and then
Yeah,
it didn't live up to the billing.
everyone was like that for sure when we saw the draw. Of course, Fils won Lyon just 2 days before the French. Well, one day before the French, I guess, but 2 days before their match. So I think fatigue also played its part in it. Then on grass, of course, he had very little experience on it. So it was explainable. But it did seem like Davidovich Fokina just really tracks down everything, feels sense at him, and basically is able to, draw the errors out of his forehand. And I was afraid that Shanghai was going to be like that again. Definitely, I was. But it actually ended up being the other way around. It disappointed because Davidovich Fokina was not competitive. I mean, 6-2, 7-5 maybe doesn't sound as bad, but 6-2, 5-3 when Fils was serving for the match for the first time, that would have been a more comprehensive victory. I think he has been able to adapt that very heavy. Actually, when they released the spin, well, it was someone on Twitter who made this graph of spin rates for Monte Carlo and Rome. Was it Rome that Fils played or Madrid? I think it was Monte Carlo and Rome. And basically, Fils had the heaviest forehand on tour in terms of the spin on the forehand. So that's pretty crazy, and I thought it might maybe be tougher for him to play in Shanghai because of that. Maybe the balls are also helping him in this regard. The fact that they're allowing him to play this heavier shot, but I think he has been good at adapting it as well, playing it a bit more flatter when he can. And very good match against Davidovich Fokina. I think I am excited to see how he does against Tommy Paul. It does not sound like a good matchup for me, but I hope to be wrong.
Yeah, I think
Basically,
that'll be a
hope to
good
be wrong.
match. I do. I think that'll be it'll be physical. I think I know this sounds daft, but you know there might be a little bit of Laver Cupness still in them because Arthur Fils was really taking that event serious, and you know Tommy Paul's so laid back he could be playing on his back. So I think there might be a little bit of a kind of hangover from that. So I'm looking forward to that one. What about Cam Norrie? He went out early again. It's been a really disappointing year. But what about JJ Wolf? You know, again, another American trying to make waves in the game.
Yeah, I mean, personally speaking, I honestly am not disappointed with the year for Nori. It's sort
Okay,
of relative to the expectations.
fair enough. So
But
he over exceeded last year, then, yeah, 2022.
yeah, probably. Like in the ATP race, he is at number 15.
All right.
I think that's really good for Nori.
Yeah,
Obviously,
considering.
a lot of that was done at the beginning of the season, right? So
Yeah,
so I
Acapulco. No, it was Rio he won, wasn't it? Rio he won.
Rio he won, and also the final in Buenos Aires,
Yeah,
and a couple of other results. And like I understand if someone is disappointed with the last few months. I think this and probably the one against Kovacevic, the loss against Kovacevic in Los Cabos were the worst ones. The worst ones, sort of. But Kovacevic played excellent tennis on his day. I cannot really speak for JJ Wolf. It was also a 2-day match, right? Nori eventually had a lot of issues closing out sets because he was 5-2 double break up in the second, then
yeah.
won it 7-5, then was 5-3 up in the third and lost it. But it's losing to JJ Wolf on a rather fast hard court. actually that bad? I don't think so. I think the odds were definitely a bit crazy in that one. I
Yeah,
believe, and yeah, again, it's really relative to the expectations, I think. And for me, if Cam Norrie is going to be like a stable top 20 player, that's really big for him,
yeah,
considering the expectations that we've had for him 2 or 3 years ago. It's absolutely massive for Norrie. So I would say it's still fine, but obviously the last few months he has just been very unspectacular. And Sean was asking, I guess he wasn't there earlier, will Shelton have much chance against Sinner? Basically, we said, well, I said that, yeah, I think it's much closer than it might seem on paper, and I also think, like John, that Sinner will at some point have fatigue issues, probably.
yeah. Well, Jordan's convinced that Sinner will run out of steam, out of gas at some point. So yeah, just watch this space. In terms of other matchups, can't really do an ATP Weekly without kind of touching on Carlos Alcaraz. Of course, losing to Sinner in the semi-finals last week in Beijing, coming through his second round match against Barrera, will now face Dan Evans. Do you give Dan Evans any hope at all?
I cannot really say I'm not giving him any hope. They just played a decent match at the U.S. Open. That's the first set he won against Alcaraz, right? But in a best of three set match, maybe there's a chance of Evans is a pretty gritty competitor. Like he can grind with the slice. Maybe there's just, I don't know, some games don't go Alcaraz's way, and then it gets tricky for him. But eventually, I would expect Alcaraz to win. I think with Medvedev out, with Zverev out, with Sinner likely not to have that sort of, the ability to go back to back in Beijing and Shanghai. I think there's a huge chance that is opening up for Alcaraz. Maybe it actually opened up with him for him when the draw came out, even because all of the high seeds in his section are like, well, Fritz, Tsitsipas, Rublev. They aren't as dangerous as the ones on the other side. We could probably argue that there are, let's say, five best players in the world right now. Djokovic is not playing. Sinner, Medvedev, Zverev are probably the other three. And then, of course, there's Alcaraz. And Alcaraz is the only one in the top half. So I think initially it really there's a huge chance for him here, and obviously also that would, if he won this event, if he made the final, that would put him in a very good position ahead of the ATP. Ahead of the remaining part of the season to fight for the number one ranking with Djokovic. I don't know if this is a huge priority, but it probably is. Looking at his schedule, maybe not a huge one, but it is a priority. So I would expect Alcaraz to go very deep. I still am expecting to. Before the event, I think I said that Alcaraz was going to make the final, but then lose to whoever is on the other side. I'm not so sure anymore because Sinner, Medvedev, Zverev, two of them went out, and Sinner, I don't know if he's going to make the final. But
Yeah,
so maybe
I
I
mean,
would change that prediction to Alcaraz is probably winning the title.
yeah, obviously Sinner and Alcaraz on another kind of collision course, as you mentioned. But yeah, it just all depends if Sinner can not run out of gas. Tomorrow's tennis. You start off with Dimitrov, Karen Khachanov, Tommy Paul, Arthur Fees, Diego Schwartz and Taylor Fritz, Manarino, Rublev, Sonigo, Nicholas Yari, Arnaldi versus JJ Wolf, Evans, Alcaraz, and then Tsitsipas, Ugo Humbert. Is there anybody for us fans out there should be thinking, this one's a nailed on win?
Yeah, I'm not excited about the fact that Paul and Fields are starting, because that means 6:30 a.m. for me. I guess it's 5:30 for you, even, right?
Well,
So
you can go to your bed.
uh,
You can go to your bed after this.
I cannot actually. There's a challenger final in Campinas, and then at 10 p.m. there's a challenger final in Tiburon, and I
There
think
is no
after
rest for you. I can just see your
exactly,
house with
yeah.
about 6 different screens with a digital schedule on your wall as well.
Yeah, more or less. I have just two screens, but yeah, sometimes, especially on Sundays where I really want to watch all the finals, it can get crazy. I also think I'm gonna probably record a podcast after Tiburon final, so it's not gonna be a lot of sleep. But I'm gonna try to watch Paul Fields, and I am really excited about the possibility of Humbert beating Tsitsipas. I think,
I think
obviously Steph.
that's a goer. That is a what you're saying could happen. Yeah.
It's Tiburon with one R, John. And yeah, Umber recently has been in pretty good form. Obviously, this is a year where he's returned to like the top 30 or thereabouts. He is actually still in the race to finish as the French number one. I don't think he cares about that all that much. But Manarino has like a 200-point lead. There's also Fils. So we've got all three guys actually still in Shanghai, and a big run
Yeah.
could switch things up. I think it's like Manarino 200 points, Umber 200 points, Fils. However, yeah, Umber basically has definitely made up for that 2022 campaign, especially for its first half. He has been really good this season. In Beijing, he had a run beating Sonego, Rublev, losing to Medvedev in 3 sets. Davis Cup as well, he was really good at. So I am hoping for a good showing from him. And obviously, Tsitsipas recently has been very fragile. Not the best of times for the Greek. Can it be a matchup that is actually tough for him? I believe so. The Umber actually holds a lead over him, 2-1. I don't know if it really holds up still after 2 years, but certainly he's got the big enough serve and big enough weapons to trouble the Tsitsipas backhand, and we'll see how Steph reacts to it, because we really haven't seen him play well, I guess we haven't seen him play a good match since the US Open first round.
Yeah.
Hijikata in the second here, I think it was just an easy draw that he capitalized on, and kudos to him for that. But Davis Cup and against Jari in Beijing, he was really out of it.
Yeah, that was the Davis Cup. I think was it in Athens, right? Insane.
Yeah, they played in Athens, and he almost lost to Lucas Klein, and then lost to Alex Molchan.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I mean we've got about 10 minutes left. I just wanted to touch on, because we were speaking about Cam Norrie, and he was looking to make Turin the finals, looking very very unlikely. Obviously, I think you said he was 15th, which he is. Yeah, I'm just looking at the race to Turin here. So 4 players already there: Djokovic, Alcaraz, Medvedev, and Yannick Sinner. In 5th is Andrew Rublev, Stefanos Tsitsipas in 6th, Zverev, and Holger Rune. There's still points in a race for these guys as well. Holger Rune going out early. Where is the Dane right now in terms of his form, his ability, and he had a strong end winning Paris last year, Indoor Paris. But yeah, it seems that these players have still got a lot of points and a lot of things to play for, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, there's Shanghai ATP 1000, Paris ATP 1000, the 500 in Tokyo, the 500 in Basel and Vienna, the 500 in Basel and Vienna in the same week. So basically, even though it seems like Rublev, Tsitsipas, Zverev, like we estimate that these guys should be safe, and it's probably down to the 8th spot. But let's say, I don't know, imagine Tommy Paul wins the ATP 1000 in Shanghai, and then suddenly he is really nicely positioned in the conversation. So, but yeah, barring any surprise winners of the 500s or of the 1000s, we would probably be looking at Rune, Fritz, maybe Ruud, because he's already in the forefront fighting for the last spot.
Yeah.
Rune, a big question mark at the moment.
What is going on?
Yeah, exactly. But I would expect Zverev to get there. I would expect Rublev and Tsitsipas to get there, but they are definitely not safe yet. I mean, there's a big gap between the top 4 and the rest, and that's how it should be right now. That's how it feels, that maybe Zverev is pretty close to that top 5, but obviously his first half of the year was like still coming back from an injury. But
Yeah.
the top 4 players that we have right now in the ATP Finals field are definitely the top 4 players of the world.
I think what you like about Alexander Zverev, I know he divides opinion, but it's been a good year in terms of coming back from that injury and making the waves and making the finals, and I think he won Hamburg as well. He's actually shown that he's a very very talented boy, and to be 7th in the race after a year off. Well, I know it's not a full year, but 7 or 8 months off. Hats off.
Yeah, indeed, he divides opinion. Personally, I've always been, able to just separate the off-court stuff and the on-court stuff. I'm just mostly looking what the players play and not who they are.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he deserves to be in the ATP Finals field right now, I think, with how he's been playing recently. Will he make it there? Again, that really depends on some other results as well, on what he does from here. I think losing here in Shanghai is definitely a bit of a hit. And we'll see.
I
Yeah,
think he finally ran out of some steam, some gas.
possibly. Yeah, but also was in a very tough section. Safiullin or Mare round 2, then Shelton round 3, and Sinner round 4.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, possibly also a bit fatigued. I mean, he was definitely not moving as well, and like just didn't really care at the end of the second set against Safiullin. Was that because of a physical problem, or was that because Safiullin was just playing so absurdly well? And probably a bit of both. But
Well, I
yeah,
remember he had a match against Davidovich Fokina as well, didn't he? That he did the
yeah,
same.
6-1, 6-2 in Toronto. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was like his second match after winning Hamburg.
yeah,
But yeah, basically at this point in time, I would really enjoy it if he made the ATP finals, because I think he can be a lot more competitive there than some of the players that could maybe break into that group with a random Paris or a Shanghai round. I think especially Paris, in the past has been such a wild ATP 1000 event, because there's the like whole season fatigue. Usually some players would skip it. And then, you got, I don't know, Karen Kachanov, Jack Sock winning it, right? So maybe someone
yeah,
like that is going to
yeah.
make the ATP finals like on the last possible moment. That's actually how Jack Sock managed to make it. I don't think Kachanov did, but Jack Sock managed.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting if there is a winner that isn't called Carlos or Yannick, then it might through the cat amongst the pigeons, as we say. So just to kind of wrap up before we go, a couple of points, and then we'll get your Jakob Bobro Player of the Week. But I wanted to touch on, and you can indulge me a little bit, Damien, as a Scotsman, Andy Murray. I've not been on Talking Tennis since I watched him throw away the match against Alex de Minaur in Beijing, and again another sore loss, pretty comfortable for Roman Safiullin. And I just wondered, Andy Murray, where does he go from here? He's probably, and it breaks my heart to say it, he's not going to maybe make the second week of a slam again. There's this new generation coming through that looks like his game's just outdated against them. But where does Andy Murray go? Does he go for another year? What can he do in the game? Has he got one more ATP title in
him? I mean, I definitely can see him winning a title, or I don't know, making the second week of a slam. I don't think he's going any way up from here. Like, I don't really think that's possible. With every year, it's going to be tougher as well. That's what we can assume with his age. Obviously, he is going to be 37 next year, and also physicality is a huge part of his game. So again, maybe it's a bit relative to the expectations, but generally speaking, I don't really expect more from Murray than I've been seeing in the past few months or so. I mean, even if you looked at who he has been losing to, I mean, Tsitsipas, Fritz, Dimitrov, Karatsev, De Minaur, Safiullin here, who played an insane match against Zverev in the next round. It's not really the end of the world, but sometimes when people get excited and like say, maybe he's going to be back in the top 20, I don't know if that's really doable. And that loss that you mentioned to the Minor was obviously quite painful for him as well. But yeah, staying around this level, I think it could be possible. It's actually quite funny how many of his big results this year were challengers, right? I mean, he's won 3
Yeah,
challengers this year.
yeah.
And other than that, it's only really the Doha final. But winning a 250 somewhere, I think it definitely could be done. I mean, in 2019, he won Antwerp and was probably playing worse than right now, or like at least comparable. So,
I'm
yeah.
looking at the race. I'm sure he started the year at 4. I mean, I'm slating him here, but I'm sure he started the year at something like 44, maybe. And I'm looking at the live. Oh no, that's a live ATP race. I thought I was looking at the ranking. I was going to say he's at 38, but I think I'm incorrect on that.
Yeah, 39, but the
39.
same basically. But
there he is. Yeah, 39. So I mean, I suppose he could look at that as progress, but at the same time, Andy Murray wants to be playing against the best in the later stages of tournament, not this first, second, third round struggle of 3 sets in 3 hours. So yeah, like you say, every year's
stayed
going to
at
get
the
harder.
same level, right? I mean, at this point, he's basically playing because he likes it. So
Yeah.
if he didn't enjoy grinding on tour, he would probably stop.
Yeah.
And
He'd
at
probably
this
relax.
point, Yeah.
Maybe he just doesn't want to go home because he's got 4 kids, and he'll realise how tough a job that would be. Maybe it's easier on the court against these guys.
Yeah, he's waiting for them to grow up a little bit, and that's when he's
Yeah.
gonna return
Yeah.
to Edinburgh or wherever they live.
Well, I think he lives in
Glasgow,
London.
actually.
I think he lives
London.
in London. Yeah, in Surrey.
London. Okay.
But anyway, to wrap up, it's been good. You've taken us through Shanghai. We've got a better understanding of what's going on and what will happen. But do you want to give us, Damien, your Jakub Bobro? Who's your player of the week for the last 7 days?
Yeah, so initially we sort of this was established as like an outside the top 100, but we decided to make an exception for Thomas Mahaj, who I know was also, Jakub, one of, I don't know if Jakub's favorite players, but we certainly talked about him a lot on the Challenger pod, and I know he even interviewed him last year in Bratislava.
Amazing.
They did it in sort of this funny way. I don't know if you know that this is possible, but Jakub was talking in Slovak and Mahaj was talking in Czech, and they just can understand
knew
each other.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they understand
That's
each
amazing.
other. For me, I know it seemed like both languages are too far away from each other. I mean, they are close, but like still too far away from each other. But actually, so they just did it like that, which is funny. And we decided to go with Mahaj because for years I think he's been a player who everyone was expecting to make more of an impact in the top 100 than he has been able to. I mean, at the end of last year, he broke it. He made his career high of 96, which is also where he sits at right now. However, after Shanghai, he might be even as high as the top 80. Right now in the live rankings, he's in the top 80. And he's basically won back-to-back challenger titles. With his title in Orléans, he ensured this interesting feat that he has won at least a challenger for like 4 consecutive seasons right now. He's 16 and 1 in his last 17 matches. And this week, in which is what we are rewarding him for, he won back-to-back titles in first Orléans, of course, last week, and now Moulin-Rouge Captif. After losing the first set to Hies Brouwer 2-6, he basically never gave anyone a chance after that. Didn't show any signs of fatigue. He still intends to play in Bratislava next week, from what I know. And this could be the real moment. This could be the moment when he breaks through to the tour. He's had some health issues earlier in the year, so if he just manages to keep going in the indoor season, get some good results, there might be really some huge ranking rise possibility in the first half of the 2024 season. Maybe top 50, something like that could be doable. Earlier in the year, of course, he played he qualified for Wimbledon, for example. He played that Houston quarterfinal. He had a great match against Djokovic. Really good talent, who I think has definitely been underperforming for a while, and I know Jakub would really enjoy this run from him for sure.
Yeah, definitely a worthy winner. Of course, beating Jack Draper in France the previous week, being a set down. Oh, sorry, it was a set up on that one. But yeah, worthy winner, Thomas, winning that one. So, anything else? Any other business, Damien? Before we wrap it up for the evening, anything else?
Probably not. Yeah, guys, watch Shanghai. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I'm definitely gonna try to watch that Paul Fields match at 6:30, but I don't know if I'm gonna make it today. I think Fields was also playing at. Was it 6:30 as well?
I think he was first on because I think they were meant to play yesterday, and then the rain hit. So they were
indeed, yesterday they actually started the match in that they did the coin toss, but they never played the points.
Exactly, because
they were stopped during the warm up.
Because the app had it as if there was a score on, it was like 0-0, and it was just like live. Like, what is going on here? But excellent, it's been good chatter. And remember, guys, Damien is going for Korda in that wee bracket of 4, the big bracket. So listen, I'll be looking out for that one, Damien, and let's do this again very soon. All right?
Of course. And also, quick beard update: neither me nor John have shaven yet. So.
Nope, there's John there, standing very creepy with Halloween coming up, John, in the dark, and with a big beard. And I got told previously by the 2 guys with the beards that I looked 5 years younger because I went all shaven. So, but yes, the beard will be back for me, I promise. It was just getting very annoying. But listen, good chatter. We'll speak again soon, Damien, and you stay well, all right?
Sure.
Top man. See you later.
See ya.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.